Hi, I'm actor Ian Champion, and welcome to The History of Horror Cinema, a personal podcast journey through the good, bad, and ugly of the history of horror movies, based on my blog, The History of Horror Cinema. Oh, and please don't forget to hit subscribe. Lon Chaney, Part 4. The Phantom of the Opera, 1925. In 1924, while Lon Chaney waited for Universal to finish preparing The Phantom of the Opera, he wasted no time, and meanwhile chose to appear in He Who Gets Slapped, a project the studio baited him with by promising, according to Chaney's wife Hazel, that if it did well he would be in line for a long-term contract with them. This was no potboiler, though. The resulting film ended up being one of his finest and a hugely favorable hit for his career. Lon plays Paul Beaumont, a scientist cuckolded in love and robbed in his profession, who joins a circus where the cruelty of the title abuse he has already literally suffered becomes his purpose in the ring as an ultimately self-sacrificing clown. One of the extras, incidentally, was Bela Lugosi, 3 years before he would take Broadway then movie horror fans by storm as Dracula. Once filming on He Who Gets Slapped was done, Chaney turned his laser focus to work on his customary self-created makeup for the title role in The Phantom of the Opera. It was well worth the time he spent crafting it, as the Phantom's look became one of the most famous Hollywood monster roles, and, as I've already mentioned, partly inspired Batman comic book artist Bob Kane in creating the face of the Joker. There had already been script delays, and the exacting construction of intricate sets built for Phantom included the superb opera house interior, haunted by its resident proprietorial tormentor, and the maze of corridors and cellars described in Gaston Leroux's original novel. Director Rupert Julian was brought on board as a reward for having finished Merry-Go-Round after the original director Erich von Stroheim was fired. Julian reportedly antagonized many of his team, and crucially Chaney, which meant that their cameraman was forced to act as a go-between for them on set. A huge casting search for the leading lady, ingenue Christine Daae, like The Hunchback of Notre Dame, was staged, quite possibly literally for publicity, as the chosen actress was Mary Philbin, who just appeared in Julian's last film. Phantom's appeal and strength lies entirely in Lon Chaney's performance as the disfigured Eric, essentially the world's most dangerous impresario and theatre critic in one. The other actors do their best but fail to really register. Norman Kerry, as Raoul, displays another of his trademark wax moustache collection, and does have at least a nice quality of stillness. Mary Philbin's Christine is very beautiful, none more so than as an angel in an early opera scene, but lacks range, which is ironic if memory serves, as that's one of the main problems the Phantom has with the prima donna he wants to replace with Christine. The actors playing the management who foolishly ignore Eric's demands for Christine to be the new prima donna chuckle along amiably, Statler and Waldorf style, from their audience box. Chaney, though, is a revelation. We are intrigued by Eric before we see him, as he is conveyed entirely through effective use of shadows by Julian, but on appearing to Christine, confessing his all-consuming love for her from afar and desire to catapult her Svengali-like to fame as his muse, he is a rich and memorable presence. He wears a plastic face mask, eerily reminiscent of the Autons from classic Doctor Who, that obscures all but his mouth, shrouded by a thin band of silk, and crucially his dark, soulful eyes that bore through the viewer. In making his first play for Christine's affection face-to-face, he plays notes of sensitivity and kindness. Chaney's talent for character channeled through physicality is striking here, as he conveys expression through his hands to compensate for his facial impassiveness, for example in the way he indicates his bedroom with unfurling fingers. By showing us and Christine Eric's tender side, it adds all the more horrific contrast to his cruelty and bitterness. When she cannot resist removing his mask, he is unprepared. So unfortunately is she, for the disfigured visage underneath is a classic shock moment. Eric grabs her by the hair, and with a frightening gesture of triumph, forces her to look on his ugliness. Chaney's makeup is awfully effective. His face a piggishly nosed skull, with sunken, tragic eyes, high cheekbones, and rotten teeth. In the specially restored color sequences for the 2013 Masters of Cinema Blu-ray, that nightmarish face sears itself into your memory. He burns with sorrow and demonic rage, perched like a crimson-swathed gargoyle on the statue to observe Christine and Raoul's romance secretly conducted against his sworn promise. The vivid red of these found scenes is tremendous, allowing us to see the grandeur of Eric's entrance to the Bal de Masque as the Red Death, sporting a blood-red cape, a skull party mask, and a red hat plume on parade before the other attendees. Although Eric is a Machiavellian manipulator behind the scenes, he knows how to make an entrance. Chaney also knew how to make an exit. At the climax, as the mob descends on Eric in the depths of the Paris sewers, he manages a bravura final flourish. Holding his right hand aloft, fist closed, he warns the frightened crowd away as if holding a grenade poised to detonate. Then, knowing that it is ultimately futile, he holds the hand out, exposing that it is empty, but roaring with triumphant mockery as the hordes envelop him. This ranks as one of the most exhilarating and strangely upbeat horror film deaths in movie history. Phantom had a troubling history on its release. After initial preview screenings fed back an overuse of suspense, the studio did not have the courage to fully release the film as it was. Instead, they tinkered with the structure, adding new scenes to forcibly inject comedy which didn't belong. Audiences noticed this, so again the film was cut and then released once more. In watching the final version, there is evidence of scenes that seem truncated, but this in no way diminishes that all-important central performance. With The Phantom of the Opera, Lon Chaney had now cemented his reputation among the first rank of Hollywood's greatest actors.